Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is a two-part series that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. Of course, as ever, please do let me know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share and help build this community and channel. And don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's story. Part 1 of the series entitled The Demon Dog of Valle, Crucis. Part 1. Let's get straight into that. Near the town of Boone, NC, there's a little town called Valle Crucis, or the Valley of the Cross, so named for the three streams which meet in the centre of the village, forming a rough cross. There exists an old legend about two young men who encountered what is known locally as the demon dog of Valle Crucis. Their story is of an otherworldly pursuit of their vehicle by a phantom canine which appeared from behind an old stone church on the outskirts of the town, St. John's Episcopal. When I was a child, my family would vacation outside of Valle Crucis every winter. On two such trips, I had encounters with the very creature. The following is an account of my first experience. I was 10 years old and excited for another winter at a family mountain house. We didn't own it, but with Grandma and all of the families on Dad's side, we could afford to rent it once a year. The house is located outside of Valle Crucis off the old 194. To get to the access road, you drive right past St. John's Episcopal and the accompanying cemetery, the supposed stalking ground of the demon dog. Of course, I wouldn't learn of the old legend until years later in college. For 8 years, I had no idea that I wasn't the only one to see it. The first year we ever rented that house, it dumped almost 2 feet of snow. In the years since, it had been disappointing by comparison. This year was supposed to be the big one, and it was scheduled to hit our vacation week. As you might guess, myself and my cousins were excited to learn it was an ample snow coming. But first, we had to stock up. Everybody needs milk and sandwiches, right? That night, as it was getting dark and the first flakes started to fall, it was decided that a grocery run needed to happen. My uncle volunteered to drive into nearby Boone and pick up everything. I asked to go because he's my favourite uncle, a funny guy, always quick with a dad joke or a prank. I figured, if nothing else, I'd get some good laughs out of the short trip. We worked down the gravel drive and eventually hit 194 and took the left to start heading towards the main valley. Now, fully dark out, we passed St. John's Episcopal, the old stone church sitting quaintly there among the dark woods. I can't say how far after the church it came upon us, unleashed itself, to say the least, with every pun intended. I didn't notice a thing, being a kid and all. Not at first, anyway. The first thing I did notice was my uncle adjusting and persistently checking the rear view mirror. The expression on his face was concerned, if not dire. Something was not right. We continued on about our way, and I noticed our speed increasing to a level not quite safe for such a mountainous area. We were probably trucking 60 down a hairpin lane. About the time I realised something was wrong, I looked at my uncle. I had never seen real fright on a grown man's face until then. He was looking in the mirror as much as the road. I turned and looked. Behind the truck was a pair of eyes. Red, but not like glowing red. They were burgundy without any illumination. It's not something easily explained with language. It was like two smouldering embers burning, and they locked me in. I came to a few seconds later, though it could have been an eternity and a half in my mind. Time had done something wrong. There was a knocking right on the back window of the cab of his truck. Whatever had been following us was in the truck bed. I knew it, and he knew it. I felt the pickup lurch as he gunned the throttle. I was holding out hope that it was a prank, and that my other uncle was the one cackling his ass off in the back of the truck. That it was a sick joke, I wasn't ready for. But his face suggested he was in this boat with me. Then I heard the knock on my window. Whatever this was, It was now essentially floating beside us at a dangerous speed for such a road. It was tapping on my window, beating on it. I looked over at my uncle as he looked past me out to whatever lay beyond. He told me not to look. Whatever happens, he said, do not look out that window. I did not look, and it would be years before I learned what he saw. The Demon Dog of Valle Crucis, Part 2. Let's get straight into that. It was 4 years later when I had my second encounter with the Demon Dog of Valle Crucis. I was 14 years old. At that time, I had been allowed to bring a friend. My sister did as well, considering our older cousins were away at school, and we had the extra room at a mountain house. My friend Stephen is still my best friend, even though we're grown men. I've known him since I was 3, and he's the first person I remember playing with. We understand each other on an almost telepathic level. I took Stephen with me that year, and we were enjoying yet another snowy trip to the lodge. We were snowboarding like things possessed in the backyard of the property, and we were in hog heaven as far as we were concerned. One afternoon, we all piled into my grandmother's van, a touring van somewhere between a Honda Odyssey and a full-blown RV. I know some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we picked our way down the gravel drive and onto Old 194. We crossed through Valle Crucis and onto Boone NC, where the whole clan of us enjoyed a meal at the Daniel Boone Inn. If you ever get the chance, you must eat there. We left the restaurant around 8:45 and began the trip back to the house. I was in the back with my friend. Not back seats, just in the back cargo area of the van. Our main view was out of the back window. In the back passenger seats were my little sister and her friend. Up front, my mum, dad, aunt and uncle. My uncle was driving. The rest of our crowd had gone ahead in a smaller vehicle and were not in sight. We were about 3/4 of the distance to the house and had just passed St. John's Episcopal Church. Then the van just stopped. The entire engine just crapped his pants, it seemed. But I wasn't fooled. I'd seen this trick before. My uncle loved to stop on that desolate road and pretend we were stranded. He'd get out and look around confused. "Well, kids, looks like we're stuck out here." But no such joke nor punchline was to follow. He didn't laugh at our terror and restart the van. He just sat there and looked at my dad. The look on his face was not jovial. It didn't seem like a joke at this time. But I played along. I nudged my friend with an elbow and gestured my head towards my sister and her friend in the van seats ahead of us. It was as if to say, "Watch this, it'll be funny." But it wasn't funny. When I nudged him, he made no response. He had his eyes dead affixed to that back window, as if he was in a trance. And then I saw it too. Behind the vehicle, and just beyond the light of the brakes, there was this thing. It had the head and scruff of a great black wolf. The body was of a man almost, though the arms were too long, and it was standing upright on 2 muscular legs. It just didn't make any sense. But whatever it was, it had my friend deadlocked through its eyes, and he was absolutely mortified. About that time my mother saw it too. At least I think she did, though she won't talk about it to this day. All I heard was her screaming for my uncle to start the car and move. The van rumbled a few seconds later. We started back down this road towards the house, and all the while me and Stephen are looking out that back window. What we saw makes me shudder to this day. The creature dropped down and was running behind our vehicle on unnatural force. The way it ran was so effed up, I still lose sleep. Like it was running ahead of time. It was so smooth and graceful, but I'll never forget how disturbing it was in its locomotion. Nothing natural should move that way. Watching it run locked me in, and everything around just kind of melted away. The worst part was that we weren't losing it. We were doing it easily 60 miles per hour on this desolate highway. But it was right there behind us, right behind the van. His face was like an exaggerated cartoon caricature of a wolf, but all too real. It was like something out of a nightmare. What I remember the most were the eyes, like 2 cigar embers, but with the yellow iris unmoving and deep. Dark black pupil in the centre of each hellish orb. They were transfixing, hypnotic. I guess maybe the fear overwhelmed me because the next day I woke up in my bed at the mountain house. It was morning. To this day, it takes Stephen quite a few drinks to discuss it, and even then, he can't have a serious conversation about it. I think he hides behind humour, but I know he remembers it just as well as I do. It will be over 10 years before I brought up these experiences to family. It seems a mighty touchy subject, but I did manage to talk to my uncle about it. What he saw out that vehicle window that night so many years before had been the exact same thing I saw behind the van a few years later. We both know what we saw, even though my mum just says it was a large wolf. It wasn't a wolf. Stay out of the valley at night. Wow, very, very intense encounter there with something quite paranormal, possibly not even flesh and blood. Something that I know a lot of us, myself included, go backwards and forwards on. We hear these encounters with dogmen, and some of them, it just depicts that this is a physical flesh and blood creature, which I personally truly do believe they are flesh and blood. But there is some sort of paranormal aspect to these creatures, whether it be that the demon dogs or hellhounds are a whole different kettle of fish together. It's something that hopefully we will get the answer to in the next few years, or within our lifetime at least. As ever, guys, please do let me know down in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share and help build the channel and community. Of course, if you have any suggestions for what type of stories you want me to include and feature on the show, please feel free to email me, message me on the group on Facebook in the cabin, or just chuck a comment down below. I'm always reading through them. Really do appreciate all your support, guys and girls. As ever, remember, be safe, not sorry.